Hello, Ravenswood and friends. We're so glad that you are here for just a really long time. I don't know how long. How long has it been that we've been doing this? 3, 4, 5, 7, 10 years that we've been doing the Christmas concert. Well, we've been doing it a lot. And Axiom and we got together this fall and said, hey, we ought to do the Christmas concert no matter what. And so here we are. They are here to join us in celebrating Christmas and celebrating the holidays. We're so glad that you are here with us. And so without further ado, as they say, Axiom Brass.
Good evening. Good evening, you guys out there in TV land. While we're very much missing you here in this beautiful church that we've come to love and just enjoy being in so much, we can feel all of your energy with us in this space, and we're wishing you the very best this holiday season, and we can't wait to see you again in person. Huge thank you to Pastor Phil for putting this together. he has become a master of all technology related to audio visual. It's really amazing. So we're going to share with you some of our favorite holiday music this evening. The first piece, I think you probably have heard if you have been to a holiday concert here with us. It's a famous piece written by Pyotr Tchaikovsky, a Russian composer who composed the music for the Nutcracker Ballet. And it's a piece from the Nutcracker as arranged by the great band leader, Duke Ellington. And you can tell the melodies of Tchaikovsky were transformed with Duke Ellington's incredible jazz touch and style. And when Kevin starts out that groove in the beginning, it just makes you want to tap your foot and just dance along. So we love playing that music, and it gives it a new touch to a real masterpiece written by Tchaikovsky, but the suite that Duke Ellington arranged is another masterpiece in itself. As we continue tonight, we're going to share with you a few new pieces that we haven't performed here before. We're really excited about, including the next piece on the program. We love playing vocal music, music that was originally written for the human voice, because we feel that as brass players, our instruments are actually very similar in many ways to the voice, in the way we can express ourselves and color our sound with vibrato or with different types of expression and inflection. This next piece was written by a Chicago-based musician and composer. His name is Kevin Allen. He's actually a really, really well-known musician and successful musician, especially in the Roman Catholic Church. He composes music primarily for church and liturgical settings. He's music director at the Monastery of the Holy Cross and Our Lady of, I'm not going to remember that, another Catholic church on the south side of Chicago. But he's a fantastic musician and a wonderful organist. So I encourage you to check out Kevin Allen's music. This is a selection of two of his pieces which were written for vocal quartet that we've translated for brass quintet. The first, Domine convertere, turn to me, O Lord. We are asking the Lord for mercy. And the second part of the second piece is, this is the day that the Lord shall come. So the first part of this piece, we're asking for mercy and for consideration from our Lord. And the second part, we're looking forward to the Lord is coming, and we are in a couple weeks. So thank you so much. This is Kevin Allen, two pieces by Kevin Allen.
So when you think of typical Christmas music from the 1800s, not much traditionally American music comes to mind. In general, most popular music prior to and even during that era came from Europe, and Christmas music certainly was no exception. But when American composer John Wesley Work Jr. came across an old spiritual entitled Go Tell It on the Mountain, it became an instant Christmas classic. This piece was especially important because it brought spirituals and African American folk songs to white audiences in the 19th and early 20th centuries. The Fisk Jubilee Singers, an a cappella group from Fisk University, would tour the country with this and other spirituals to actually raise money for their college. And this was the very first time that for many white Americans, they ever heard a spiritual or even learned that spirituals existed. This transcription of Go Tell It on the Mountain was done by our very own Corey Sansolo, and it sort of acts as a theme and variations or a type of fantasy. After a brief introduction in which the two trumpets trade off bell tones, one muted, one not, as if to emulate echoing through the mountains, the theme is introduced, which I'm sure you all will recognize. From there, it's generally passed between every member of the group throughout the piece, but there's always a slight tweak, a slight variation between either the melody or the accompaniment, sometimes both at the same time, which gives this evolutionary feeling. There's always something changing, something creating a little bit new color, new style, new mood. And of course, the final statement is played by the tuba, all by his lonesome.
I'm excited to take us on a journey to Sweden now to learn about a composer that is relatively unknown to most of us, Elfrida André. Now, Elfrida André was born on the largest island off of the main coast of Sweden, and she was quite a trailblazing young woman and composer. She began at age 14. She moved to Stockholm, and I actually Google mapped it. It is a 4.5-hour ferry ride in 2020. So you can imagine what that journey may have been back in the 1840s, 1850s when she did that. She was born in the mid-19th century and lived until the 1920s. Now, Elfrida André she broke glass ceiling after glass ceiling. She was the first woman to graduate from the Swedish Royal Academy of Music, and she got a degree in organ. At the time that she began her program, they didn't even have programs offered to women. And she constantly, throughout her life, changed the course of things. After graduating, she and her family, which was a fairly well-to-do family at the time, managed to find ways with politicians to create opportunities for women. They made it possible for women to apply for jobs and hold positions as church organists, as well as, outside of music, as telegraph operators. And Miss André held positions in both of these fields until eventually gaining a position at the Gothenburg Cathedral, which is one of the most renowned jobs at the time as an organist. And once again, breaking just glass ceiling after glass ceiling, she was the first to achieve this level of recognition. She was also a composer and conductor, composer of course, because we're playing music by her. And she was recognized in her own life as being one of the elites of the Swedish composers. So the piece we're going to play from her, Julstämning, translates to Christmas mood or Christmas spirit, and it's a piece that she wrote for piano. I really love how it blends for the brass. It has kind of the warmth that you would hear if you hear the piano putting their pedal down, just has a very warm kind of undercurrent, while some beautiful soaring melodies exist over it. I really enjoyed transcribing this piece for brass. I think it works so well, and it's so great to recognize a composer that unfortunately hasn't gotten the recognition that perhaps she deserves. A motto that Elfrida André kind of lived by during her life was the elevation of womankind. When she was born, women in Sweden had practically no rights. By the time she died, they could work, they could vote, and she was a large part of that. Unfortunately, it is rumored that one of her symphonies that she had the opportunity to conduct, that the musicians intentionally played the wrong notes. And events like that, unfortunately, did stunt her career against those of Tchaikovsky and Mahler, who were going on at the same time. Well, I promise you that we will not intentionally miss any notes in this attempt at her piece, and we will also follow it up by one of a carol we all know very well, Fum, Fum, Fum.
thank you again for joining us today. I know it's very odd for us because it is very quiet, but even though we can't hear you, we can definitely feel your presence. So it's just really wonderful to be able to, despite all that is going on, that we're still able to perform for you and put on this concert. So what can I say about the next composer? Percy Grainger is a figure that's well known in the band and wind ensemble world, and somewhat in the vocal world as well, but it's not a very common household name. But Percy Grainger was a wonderful, fantastic composer that contributed a ton to repertoire, especially because he's really known for taking folk music from the British Isles and turning that into classical music and really bringing that to the classical stage. He's an Australian-born composer, but lived very briefly in Australia. When he was at the age of 9, he moved to Germany to study music. And then during World War I, enlisted in the US Army and lived in the United States and finished out his career and his life in the US. During that time, he's contributed hundreds of folk tunes to the classical repertoire, as well as some very well-known original pieces. The piece that you're about to hear is a 17th century English carol. It's entitled Sussex Murmurs. If, like me, you didn't know what a murmur was, I did look it up. If you're curious, it's like, imagine carolers going from house to house singing carols, but a lot more intense. So mummers were actors, and they traveled in groups from town to town in disguise, masked and robed, and they would put on a show. If you, as a host, would invite them into your home, they would perform acts of plays for you. They would sing, they would dance, they would tell jokes. It was all in good fun, and as the host, the fun of it all was that you got to guess who they were. So there was a lot of fun shared along that. And then they would go from town to town sharing their merrymaking with everyone in the town. So that's the first piece, Sussex Murmurs. Following that, we will do 12 Days of Christmas. Now, mummering happened during what's called the Christmastide, the 12 days of Christmas from Christmas Day, the 25th, to January 5th, just before Epiphany in the liturgical calendar. During that time, there's a popular song that we all know, the 12 Days of Christmas, that is about that time. The music has changed forms over the years. The narrator tells the story of their true love, receiving a bunch of really random and often silly gifts. The gifts were meant to be sort of a memory game that children would sing a long time ago. So as you can imagine, that has changed over the years. But in 1909, Frederick Austin coined the 5 gold rings, the big moment that we all know from that piece. So he's really famous for that, and that's the version that we sing today. It is set to brass quintet by the Pulitzer Prize-winning and American composer John Harbison, who wrote his only brass quintet called Christmas Vespers, and we will be performing A Little Fantasy on the 12 Days of Christmas by John Harbison. Thank you.
A couple of songs coming up that I think you all will recognize. Actually, what's coming up next? I've completely forgotten. Christmas Angel. So, I'm so sorry. The second of these two you'll recognize. It's one of our favorite carols with an absolutely beautiful story. Some of you may have heard about something called the Christmas Truce of World War I. And during a very, very despair and rain-filled and death-filled December, during World War I, the story goes that a German soldier started singing a certain Christmas carol. He sang it both in German and then in English. And soon enough, more people joined in, and in Christmas Eve of that awful time, these two sides of the trenches came together for a day of peace and harmony and exchanging of gifts amidst a horrible war. That is Silent Night, the song that was rumored to have been sung at that time. So we will share with you a different version of Silent Night that we've come across that we really like. But before that, a wonderful new piece to our repertoire. It's called Christmas Angel, a beautiful song written initially for chorus by Canadian composer and musician, singer Corlin Haney. It's a simple but a really touching song. It's one of those songs you hear and immediately you're just sucked in and your heart goes, oh man, that's really, really nice. So that's one of those songs that we've came across recently. I wanted to read to you some of the opening lines of the text, since we're not going to be singing, just so you can get a sense of what the piece is about. The opening lines of Christmas Angel. How I wish I could sing like an angel. I'd sing carols so high and sweet. Oh, if I had the voice of an angel, I'd be singing that sweet child asleep. This is Christmas Angel by Corlin Haney, and then Silent Night.
Great, so just a few housekeeping things. If you're enjoying the concert or if you want to stay up to date on everything Axiom Brass, if you haven't already, please consider following us on Facebook and Instagram and by signing up for our newsletter at axiombrass.com. Also, I realize that it feels like it was probably yesterday that this happened because COVID seems to shrink months down where the last 9 months have felt like a couple days, but also 5 years. We released a CD in February, mid to late February, entitled First Impressions. In 2016, Axiom celebrated our 10th anniversary. So for our 10th anniversary, we decided to commission 10 brand new works for brass quintet. So on First Impressions is the first 5 commissions that we asked composers to write for us. We're really proud of the project. We are really happy with how it turned out, and it furthers our mission of producing and creating new music by living composers and continuing to create more quality works for brass quintet. So you can find that on our website at axiombrass.com as well. And I know everyone's been struggling through COVID. We're doing the best we can. The arts organizations and arts ensembles have struggled quite a bit. We have you are able to donate through Fractured Atlas, a nonprofit organization that we are sponsored by. If you feel so generous or able to help, our Fractured Atlas campaign helps us create more educational programs, helps us work on recording projects, supports the ensemble. So if you are able to, you can find our Fractured Atlas campaigns on axiombrass.com as well. We would be incredibly grateful. Now, we are super excited to be able to share this next piece with you. If you grew up in the United States like myself, you've probably never ever heard this song before, but I guarantee you that after tonight, you will never ever forget it. This song in particular proves to me that no matter what language or what culture a Christmas song comes from, it will always get stuck in your head. Always. I don't speak Spanish. This next song is from South America. I sing it every night before I go to sleep. Burrito Sabanero, or in English, The Little Donkey of the Savannah, was written in 1972 by Venezuelan singer-songwriter Hugo Blanco. And it follows the story of a little donkey that is traveling to Bethlehem on the night that Jesus is born. The lyrics of the refrain, si me ven, hoy camino de Belén, translates to, if they see me, I'm going to Bethlehem. The reason this piece is so memorable and so enjoyable for us to play is because of its style. It's very unique in a Christmas style because it sounds like a Caribbean dance. It's something that you would hear somewhere on the islands in the Caribbeans. The tuba is grooving away through the whole piece, and there's so much syncopation that it is very difficult to not want to get up and start dancing. Now, the great thing about watching at home is if you dance, nobody will see you. So you can do that. We will not judge. We really enjoy playing this. We are really looking forward to sharing it with you. Obviously, in Chicago, as we perform this, and as most of you are listening to this, we experience a white Christmas. But just this once, as we perform this next piece, imagine you're sitting on the beach in the Caribbean. The sun rays are shining down on you. You've got your sunglasses on and a pina colada in hand, or a virgin pina colada. And singing Feliz Navidad as we perform Burrito Sabanero, arranged by our very good friend, Maestro John Dodson.
I think Pastor Phil was dancing back there. Pretty sure. He was grooving. Well, as we come to the closing of our program for this evening, we want to once again thank not just Pastor Phil, but the entire Ravenswood community. We really love being part of this community, and we really treasure the opportunity that we have, not just to come here and rehearse, but to also share our music with this beautiful congregation that is always so welcoming and so kind to all of us on this very, very long relationship that we have had. So thank you so much, not just for making this concert possible, but for throughout the year being such generous hosts and friends. We really appreciate. And as we move to the next piece, as we are now on the 307th day of March of 2020, I think it's very clear to all of us that for most of us, this is the most strange, unpredictable year that we have lived. And yet, in the midst of all this uncertainty, we have seen so many expressions of kindness, so many initiatives to make sure that we can somehow resemble the normal lives that we had before. And I am especially inspired by seeing how creative we all have become. Not just artists, but everyone. As my friend Michael here was saying, that Pastor Phil is now an expert in videography and sound systems and all that stuff. I think we all have had to learn all those things. And it's really remarkable that in the midst of so much uncertainty, we have found with creativity that we can be together even as we are apart. That we can continue to innovate, to learn, to explore. We can do all of that if we just put our minds to it. And that's really remarkable. So the piece we're going to close this concert for you with is something that I think is very appropriate for this moment. We're going to play for you, O Holy Night. And I think it goes without saying that we all are hoping for those holier days and nights that are to come. When I was a little kid, my mom used to always say this to me. I'm going to try to loosely translate this saying from Portuguese to English, but she always said when things were very difficult, she would say, don't worry, because, the same way that there's no good that lasts forever, there's no difficulties that ever lasts. And it's true. It's going to be over someday, and we're going to shake hands, we're going to hug each other, we're going to laugh, and we're going to celebrate. And in the meantime, we can just wish for that with the sound of Holy Night.